As an introduction, my name is Rich Eskew, and I'm an author and a poet. I write primarily historical novels, historical fiction on the Klondike, Alaska gold rush, anything from say 1880 through 1910. And my books are sold on 4 continents. Well, we have one friend in Ireland and one friend in Johannesburg. But I'm also known as Gloria's husband. That's what my business card says, Gloria's husband. And she's the smartest gal I've ever met. She should be here tonight, but she's under the weather a bit, so she may not come by. To give you an idea how slick she is, we got married, well, we've been married 43 years this October. And we got married on a Tuesday night. It was about 30 below zero. And I put that ring on. And I never took it off for 39 years. And then I cut the finger real bad. It swelled up. They had to cut the ring off. So when they cut the ring off, I got to looking on the inside. So put it back on. I'm also known as Grizzbait. The reason is my son and I have an agreement that when I get slightly more senile, which could be next week, he's going to fill my pockets with dog food and bacon grease on my back and maybe some honey on the head. He's going to take me out about 60 miles and drop me off. Grizzbait. And then for all those teachers that said I would never amount to anything, Chuck's going to take a picture of some grizzly scat and send it to the teachers. When I was a kid, we didn't have a TV, but we had a radio. It had a little green eye on it, and when the eye was real bright, you knew the tubes were warmed up, and you could tune in and listen to Amos and Andy, and Fibber McGee and Molly, and The Shadow Knows. But the one show that I liked that really, really captured me in my imagination was Sergeant Preston of the Yukon. And if you all remember that, anybody remember his faithful dog? What was the dog's name? Yukon King. I found out in research that that whole character in the episodes were based upon a real-life Mountie by the name of Samuel B. Steele. About the same time as I'm really enthralled with Sergeant Preston, about age 7, between 7 and 8, the teachers introduced me to a fellow named Jack London. And I'm sure you all know Call of the Wild, White Fang. His best work was probably Sea Wolf, and he really wasn't a sea captain. He also was a captain of a stern wheeler between Lake Bennett and Dawson. He died early, complications of scurvy. Well, about the same time, a teacher introduced me to a fellow named Robert Service, where Jack London was writing his stories in prose. Robert Service was writing his stuff in rhyme verse, poetry. Now, poetry in those days is a lot different than it is now. Well, see, there's good poetry, and then there's modern poetry. Nothing in between. Robert Service was a Scotsman, educated in England, came to America. His first collection of poems was titled Songs of a Sourdough, published in 1907. From that first edition, he made over $125,000. 1907 money? More than I made last year, I can tell you that. I consider Robert Service to be the great-grandfather of modern cowboy poetry. Cowboy poetry. You ever hear Marty Robbins singing a song called El Paso? That's cowboy poetry. And the best poet is a guy by the name of Baxter Black. If you ever come across him, you'll fall in love with this guy. The cowboy poetry, as well as the ballads that Service did, they have to be long. They have to rhyme. It should be in quatrains, and it has to have either a moral or sort of an O. Henry twist somewhere. The song El Paso is an example. We all think that this guy, he shot the other guy because he was in love with Fiona, okay? And that's why they chased him down and they killed him. No, the reason they chased him down was he stole a horse. The line is, I caught a good one, it looked like it could run. He stole the horse. That's the twist. And that's kind of what Service has in many of his ballads also. The main gold strike in the Klondike occurred on August 17, 1896. And there's no truth to the rumor, I was there. Okay? It was my younger brother. The electrification of the Klondike and the gold lasted for a long time, all the way up until the late teens, and the flu epidemic in America dispelled it, along with First World War. And two people kept it alive, Jack London and Robert Service. Everyone was reading London's book, as well as Service. But Service also had another help. It was called vaudeville. And the people in those days were getting tired of hearing renditions of Kipling's Gunga Din. And here came a guy that's talking about gold, and you pick it up and you're wealthy. So, this evening, I'd like to do some renditions of Robert Service for you, and some other things. But we need to add a little bit more atmosphere. Now this is a pavilion for the RV park. It's clean, they like to keep it clean, so that they always ask me to relate to you that while I'm here, please don't throw any tomatoes, rotten eggs, throw ribeye. But I'd like to add some atmosphere to it, both of the gold era, and maybe even a touch of vaudeville. And to do that, we'll kind of dress up here a little bit. What's your name made this for me? And this is kind of what a bartender or a faro dealer would look like in, say, circa 1900. And faro was the game of the miners before poker. If you'd like to learn how to play faro, I'll be glad to teach you. We use my deck and your money. And he really did wear sleeve garters back in the days. And the reason is it protected the cuffs, which were the first thing to go. And also a faro dealer had trouble putting a card up his sleeve. And anybody worth their salt had to have a pocket watch and a gold nugget chain. Again, what's your name got this for me? She thought I had money. That's the only reason she married me. Because it sure wasn't because I'm handsome. And this is called a top bowler. What do you think? You know the days of my walking through the mall and having the young girls throw roses at my feet? Those days are almost over with. They're almost gone. I'd like to start off with a rendition of, how many of you heard the cremation of Sam McGee? When was the last time you heard her?
Well, you did it in 2016.
Okay, so you're back again.
Yeah.
Welcome back. There's no moral in this. It's just a good story. Probably Service's best known work. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men whom oil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. And the northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was a night on the marge of Lake Labarge. I cremated Sam McGee. Now, Sam McGee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. Why he left his home in the south to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but the land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell. And he'd often say in his homely way that he'd sooner live in hell. On a Christmas day, we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Oh, talk of your cold. Through the parka's fold, it stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes we'd close and our lashes froze, till sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. And that very night, as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, the dogs were fed and the stars overhead were dancing heel and toe. He turned to me and kept, says he, I'll cash in this trip, I guess. And if I do, I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request. Well, he seemed so low that I couldn't say no. And then he says with a sort of moan, it's the cursed cold, and it's got right hold till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yet tain't being dead, it's my awful dread of an icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that foul or fair, you'll cremate my last remains. Well, a pal's last need is a thing to heed. I swore I would not fail. And we hurried on at the crack of dawn, but oh, he looked ghastly pale. He crouched on the sleigh, and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee. And before nightfall, a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. There wasn't a breath in that land of death. And I hurried on, horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh, but it seemed to say, you may tax your brawn and brains, but your promise true, and it's up to you to cremate those last remains. Promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were dumb, in my heart how I cursed that load. And every night by the lone firelight, while the huskies round in a ring howled out their woes to the homeless snows. Oh God, how I loathed that thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow. Yet on I went, though the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low. The trail was bad. I felt half mad, but I swore I would not give in. And I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Till I came to the marge of Lake Labarge, and the derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw on a trice it was named the Alice May. Well, I looked at it, and I thought of it, and I looked at my frozen chum. Then here, said I, with a sudden cry, is my crematorium. Well, some planks I tore from the cabin floor. I lit the boiler fire, and some coal I found that was lying around. I heaped the fuel higher. The flames just soared, the furnace roared, such a blaze you seldom see. And I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal, and I stuffed in Sam McGee. Then I made a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so. The heavens scowled, and the huskies howled, and the winds began to blow. It was icy cold, and the hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, and I don't know why. And the greasy smoke in an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with a grisly fear. All the stars came out and they danced about, ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, I'll just take a peek inside. I guess he's cooked, and it's time I looked. In the door I opened wide, and there sat Sam, looking cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar. And he wore a smile, you could see him out. He said, oh, please close the door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in that cold and storm. Since I left Plumtree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm.